Two couples. Same age, both 63. Both retired in Ontario. Both own a home in Ottawa. Both have been dreaming about spending winters in Florida. One couple listened to an accountant friend who said, "If you're going to be abroad more than 6 months, you should cut your ties with Canada." They did. They gave up their Ontario health card, closed local accounts, and filed as non-residents. Within 2 years, they had lost their GIS payments. Their OAS continued, but only barely, and the paperwork was a mess. And when the husband needed a specialist, they were paying out of pocket because OHIP was gone. The second couple did things differently. They kept their Ottawa home. They kept their health cards. They tracked how many days they spent in Ontario, and they spent 5 months in Florida every winter, comfortably, legally, and without losing a single benefit. Same plan. Completely different outcomes. I'll be honest, when I first started researching this topic, I almost gave the same advice as that accountant friend. The rules around Canadian residency when you travel are genuinely confusing, and most of what gets repeated online is written for people who are leaving Canada permanently. That's a completely different situation from spending 5 months in Florida. The CRA doesn't care that you left Canada for the winter. What they care about is whether you broke your real residential ties. And understanding that difference is the entire game. Let's start with the rule everyone has heard about, the 183-day rule. And let's get it right, because most people have it backwards. The rule says this: if you are present in Canada for 183 days or more in a calendar year, the CRA deems you a resident. That part is straightforward. But here's what most people miss. The rule only works in one direction. Crossing 183 days makes you a deemed resident. It does not mean that spending fewer than 183 days in Canada makes you a non-resident. I used to think that if you left Canada for 6 months, you automatically lost your residency. That's what gets repeated in online forums constantly. But it's not how the system works. What actually determines your residency is your residential ties. And the strongest ones, what the CRA calls primary ties, are your dwelling place, your spouse or common law partner, and your dependents. If those ties remain in Canada, you remain a resident. Full stop. Mark and Linda are a good example. In a typical year, they spend 152 days in Canada, roughly June through mid-October, and 213 days in Florida. If you ran their numbers through one of the online residency calculators, it would flag them as potential non-residents. But the calculator misses the point entirely. They kept their Ottawa home. They kept their Ontario health cards. Their bank accounts and their car are in Canada. Under CRA rules, they are Canadian residents for the entire year, not part of it the entire year. Now, Ontario OHIP has its own layer. To keep your provincial health coverage, you need to be physically present in Ontario for at least 153 days each calendar year. Mark and Linda tracked this carefully. At 152 days in Canada, and nearly all of that in Ontario, they were cutting it very close. That is the kind of detail that actually matters. So if you can spend more than half the year abroad and still keep residency, why do so many snowbirds run into serious trouble? Because of a trap that almost no one warns you about. Here's where most snowbird advice goes wrong. People focus on residency. Am I still a resident? When the real question is which benefits are at risk and why. Let's go through this clearly. OAS, Old Age Security, is payable outside Canada as long as you have resided in Canada for at least 20 years after age 18. For most Canadians who grew up here, that threshold is easily met. You can spend winters in Florida for the rest of your life and OAS will keep coming. CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, has no residency condition at all. It follows you anywhere in the world. These two are not your problem. GIS is different. The Guaranteed Income Supplement requires you to be a resident of Canada and present for more than 6 months of the year. If you are outside Canada for 6 consecutive months or more, GIS payments stop, and they stop the month after you cross that threshold. When you come back, they resume. So GIS is time sensitive in a way OAS and CPP are not. And then there's provincial health insurance. In Ontario, OHIP requires at least 153 days of physical presence each calendar year. Miss that, and you can lose your coverage, and getting it back requires another waiting period. Mark and Linda almost made a catastrophic error. When they first started planning their Florida winters, they worried mainly about OAS. An advisor suggested they consider severing ties and becoming non-residents to simplify their tax situation. They nearly did it, but the correct playbook looked very different. By maintaining their Ottawa home and tracking their Ontario days carefully, they kept OAS, which was never really at risk. They kept OHIP because they hit the 153-day mark. On the GIS side, they were absent for 213 days that first year, which meant GIS was suspended for part of that time, but it resumed when they returned. I don't know every detail of your life or your health situation, but I do know the rules. And for most snowbirds, those rules are far more forgiving than you've been told, as long as you follow the right playbook. So now the question that scares most people: how does the CRA even know you left? What are they actually tracking? This is the question that comes up in almost every conversation about snowbirding, and there's a lot of fear built into it. So let's look at what the CRA actually has access to. The CRA works closely with the Canada Border Services Agency, which runs what's called the Entry-Exit Program. Since 2023, this program covers land border crossings, not just air travel. When you cross into the United States, that data goes to CBSA, and CBSA shares it with the CRA. They also receive airline passenger manifests for international flights. On top of that, Canada participates in the Common Reporting Standard, a global information sharing agreement with over 100 countries. If you have a bank account in another country, that country's financial institution may be reporting it to the CRA automatically. And under FATCA, U.S. financial institutions are required to report accounts held by Canadian residents to the IRS, which then shares that information with Canadian tax authorities. So when people say the CRA knows when you leave, they're not entirely wrong. But here's what I've seen in practice. I've had clients who thought they could fly under the radar by using different travel documents at land crossings. The CRA eventually caught up, not because of exit tracking, but because the client had opened a bank account in Mexico. That account was reported under the Common Reporting Standard. The CRA asked questions. The residency situation unraveled from there. Mark and Linda were worried about this. They had visions of someone in Ottawa reviewing their Florida credit card statements, but the CRA never contacted them. They filed their tax returns as Canadian residents every year. They kept documentation of their Ottawa home. There was nothing to investigate. The tracking is real. But for someone who is filing correctly and maintaining their ties, the tracking works in your favor. It confirms what you've already declared. The people who run into trouble are the ones whose paperwork contradicts their lifestyle. That's the real audit trigger. Not how many days you spent in Florida, but whether your residential ties hold up when someone looks closely. Let's be specific about what the CRA actually looks at when they assess residency, because a lot of people confuse the two categories. Primary ties are the things that matter most. Your dwelling, meaning a home you own or rent in Canada that's available for your use. Your spouse or common law partner if they remain in Canada, and your dependents. If these are in Canada, you have a primary tie. These are hard to offset. Secondary ties include things like bank accounts, credit cards, investment accounts, a driver's license, and club memberships. These count, but they can't compensate for a missing primary tie. A bank account alone does not make you a resident. Here's where people go wrong. They sell their Canadian home, thinking it will simplify their financial life. They keep their bank account, maybe a credit card, and they assume that's enough. It's not. Selling the home removes the most important primary tie. The CRA will likely treat that person as a non-resident from the date the home was sold. Mark and Linda did the opposite. They kept their Ottawa home. They maintained their Ontario health coverage. They kept their joint bank account active. And in Florida, they rented. They did not buy property. Owning property in Florida would have added complexity, though it wouldn't automatically change their residency status. You know what happened when Mark kept his Ontario health card? He also kept his family doctor. And if you've tried to get a new family doctor in Ontario in the last few years, you know how hard that is. Some people who left for 2 or 3 years came back to find there was no one taking new patients in their area. That's a real cost that doesn't show up in any tax calculation. The point is simple. Keep your primary ties. Understand your secondary ties, and be very cautious before selling your Canadian home. There's a reason this topic generates so much anxiety. It's not because the rules are complicated. They're actually fairly clear once you understand them. It's because the fear of losing something you already have is much stronger than the satisfaction of keeping it. When someone tells you that spending too much time in Florida could cost you your OAS, your health coverage, and your pension, that registers as a threat, and when we feel threatened, we tend to overcorrect. We consider severing ties completely. We worry about being tracked. We hesitate to book the flight. A lot of online content feeds this anxiety, often unintentionally. The videos and articles that perform best are the ones that start with a warning, and warnings about the CRA get clicks, even when the underlying rules haven't changed and the risk is well managed. But consider this. For most Canadians who have lived here their entire adult lives, maintained their home, and kept their family here, the residency question is not a tightrope. It's a map. The lanes are clearly marked. You stay in your lane, you get where you're going. The hard part isn't the rules. It's believing the rules are actually on your side. So let's put this into practice. 3 concrete steps. This is what Mark and Linda actually do every year. Step 1. Document your Canadian home. This sounds obvious, but many people don't do it systematically. Keep your property tax bills. Keep your utility statements. Hydro, gas, water. Keep your Ontario driver's license current and at your Canadian address. If a CRA audit ever asks you to demonstrate that you maintained a dwelling in Canada, you want a paper trail that goes back years, not something you scrambled together last minute. Property tax bills in your name, at your Canadian address for the year in question, that's the kind of evidence that ends conversations quickly. Step 2. Track your days in Canada. Get a simple log, even a note on your phone or a paper calendar. Record the date you leave and the date you return every time you travel. For Ontario residents, the target is a minimum of 153 days physically present in the province each calendar year to maintain OHIP. Many people miss this because they're not counting carefully. Mark and Linda came very close to falling short in their first year. Now they track it month by month. Step 3. File your tax return as a Canadian resident. Even if you spend 5 months abroad, you file as a resident. Do not claim non-resident status unless you have genuinely and permanently severed your ties, sold your home, moved your family, and decided Canada is no longer your base. For snowbirds, non-resident filing is almost always the wrong choice. One additional item: if you own foreign property, investments, real estate, even certain accounts worth more than $100,000 Canadian, you are required to file Form T1135 with your tax return. This is a reporting requirement, not a tax, but missing it carries significant penalties. If you have a condo in Florida or a brokerage account in the US, talk to your accountant about this. This isn't complicated. Mark and Linda's accountant handles a regular resident return every April. There are no surprises. There's no guessing about their status. They just need to show up with their day log and their Canadian utility bills. Let's bring this back to where we started. Mark and Linda. They are now in their 4th winter in Florida. 5 months in the sun, 7 months in Ottawa, OAS coming in, CPP coming in, Ontario Health Card active. Their family doctor is still their family doctor. Their accountant files a standard resident return every spring. They did not sever their ties. They did not become non-residents. They just learned the difference between snowbirding and emigrating, and that difference is everything. You do not need to fear the CRA to spend winters abroad. You need to understand what they're looking for: residential ties, correct filing, and consistent documentation. That's the whole system. If this video helped you see the snowbird picture more clearly, I'd be grateful if you subscribed to the channel. I put out new videos every week on Canadian retirement strategies, the kind of practical, specific information that actually helps you make decisions. And I'd genuinely like to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever worried about losing your OAS or your healthcare because of time spent outside Canada? What held you back? Leave a comment below. I read everyone.